In a world where your meat is not for the beating, can you sustain yourself without beating said meat, or will you let the meat beat you? Hello, this is Bailey. Welcome to the Riff Ranch Podcast.
Welcome to episode 43
40 Thrizzle.
40 Thrizzle of the Riff Ranch. We're going to talk about VITA CARNIS today. And right off the bat, I would just like to say, go join us on Patreon.
Hit us up on YouTube.
Hit us up on YouTube. Leave us a like, a rate, a follow, all of that good stuff. And you can send me money at Kyle Anthony 365 on Cash App. I realize
I tell you, you are really good at that. I tell you what, yeah. The whole
plugging.
Intro, the plug thing,
Yeah.
like it's, and then I do it like, follow us on. We have Instagram. I think.
I think we have a YouTube.
We have YouTube. And also, anyway, you get really good at it.
I appreciate it. I try.
In a world,
we're gonna talk about VITA CARNIS today. Anyway, I think what have you been up to lately, man?
Dude, I've been thinking about this fucking meat, son.
Honestly,
meat. I really thought that this show was gonna be not show, but the
it's basically a show. It's got seasons and shit.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I thought it was gonna be something a little like quick and like. I didn't think it was going to be that deep, but I got 3 episodes into it, and
it's very deep.
I was like, "Oh wow, this is really cool!" And just like the way that it was made and everything, it's really nice. I was watching it, taking notes.
Very well done analog horror.
Yeah. And I'm sitting here like, "Damn, it's like some mom and pop kind of shit." But like not mom and pop, you know what I'm saying? Like a homemade kind of thing, and they use like all these different elements to make.
Yeah, there's so much to it. I guess it's like.
And just like the creatures themselves, how they could do like the physical manifestations of them.
I just realized we haven't shot an episode in probably almost 2 weeks, maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah, it's been almost 2 weeks since we shot an episode, and we like this is because this is what I've been listening to for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
and like because I've
totally haven't been working on anything other than nothing. We haven't done anything.
No, nothing. We haven't been doing anything at all. But no, it's always cool to get back in here and work on an episode when we haven't done one in a while. It's always a good feeling. It
is fun. It's really a good part of the week just to get shit going. Even though there's only like fucking 60 people that listen to this shit, it's still really fun to be like, all right, this. Actually, I thought about it the other day, and I was like, "Wow,
there's 35 views or something on YouTube on one of the videos."
Yeah. I'm listening to a lot of this stuff, and now that I don't do the same things I did in the beginning of this.
I think we're so much better at it now.
Yeah.
The new analog, as of the time of the recording, one of the most recent episodes is the analog horror where I talk about the back rooms, and honestly, I listened to that, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is a really good episode." It's like well paced and like I don't know, we're bitty and it's like and it sounds like we know what we're doing, and we both researched the analog horrors that we were both talking about before we went into it, so it's like we're there's good pacing and everything, and I don't know, it's my favorite episode I think we've put out so far.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of the ones that I don't know. Yeah, the more fun, and it was like I don't know, it's just good,
and it was well researched as well.
Yeah. We knew what we were talking about. And I wasn't obliterated. In some of those episodes, I'm stoned out of my mind, bro. Why? Or drunk as fuck. Who does that? That's probably why people don't get super trashed on talk shows.
Yeah.
Like their beers filled with water. You know what I'm saying?
Most podcasts I listen to, if they do drink at all, they'll usually do like drunk episodes for their Patreon or something, which is kind of where that idea came from. When we first started this, I was saying I wanted to do drunk episodes with you because like most people you can't really have alcohol out on YouTube anyway. So like that's a big part of why people don't drink when they're doing the podcast.
Shit. Yeah. I'll tell you what though, I'm glad we don't get super trashed.
I am too. We're drinking coffee right now on the Riff Ranch. Shout out to Iliano's Coffee.
Yeah.
That's not a plug. That's what we're drinking.
You ever go to Caribou Coffee?
Caribou Coffee? I've never had it.
We do Caribou.
Wait, is that the one on Marietta Square? No? No. Okay.
No, they got Caribou. Hell, honestly, I don't even think they have Caribou Coffees in Georgia anymore.
Oh, really?
It's like off-brand.
It's like
it's like a brand that was trying to be like Starbucks, but it's not. It was a Caribou, but it was like anyway. We'll this shit out.
It was like a caribou. You know how like Starbucks has the mermaid, and Caribou had the
It was like
caribou.
same color
It was
scheme
like
and everything, but it was like
that's
caribou,
fucked.
and like around it was like a green circle kind of shit, or like it was like coming out. Anyway, whatever. It was trying to rip off Starbucks, but it was too gay for the time,
It was too.
so they cut that shit off. Monopolize
um,
coffee. You should monopolize everything. That's the point of capitalism.
um,
And
so
VITA CARNIS,
and VITA CARNIS, which means living meat
living meat,
in Latin. I think I got that right.
which is honestly, I think the format of this show, the analog horror is awesome. Throughout the whole thing.
Hang on. Because you just brought that up, it reminded me. 1 second. Oh. Yeah, I enjoyed how it was somebody watching on the tapes. That's what you were just saying.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that too. I mean, we'll get into it. I have like a thing. We were going to break down each one of this episode. We're going to break down each one of the monsters and everything was kind of my idea. And then we're going to do a part 2 for the Riffalog horrors. And we're going to talk about the other shit that's not really the documentary. So the first half of the season that we're talking about on this episode is more of a documentary style of like how things go about it. And I have some notes here on most of the monsters, not all of them.
Dude, I am absolutely geeked off this cold brew.
Are you really?
Yeah, dude. I haven't ate today, and this is like
he said, lunch. Absolutely.
I'm on this fast.
I only drink coffee, and then I eat a bunch of junk food at night before I go to bed.
Yeah, I try to only drink coffee and protein shakes until I get my calorie count up, and then I eat all the last 1,000 calories I need right before I go to sleep. And
hell yeah, dude.
Anyway.
That's definitely okay.
That's not going to give me cancer at all.
I mean, you should do it probably like your last 1,000 calories you need for the day or whatever that you eat before you go to bed. You should do it like 2 hours before you go to bed, probably, because you're more likely to gain weight if you eat it right before you go to bed.
Right before I go to sleep.
Yeah,
which blows. But hey,
so I have some notes here. We're going to start talking about the different creatures. Basically, the premise of this whole thing is. Oh wait, hang on. Okay, I already said it's living meat. It gets the name from the animals that spawned from like this whole universe. They all look kind of like fleshy, raw meat monster creatures almost, and they don't have any skin. It's like a whole thing. And basically, so these things started. The way it kind of explains it is they showed up in 1931 in like the whole universe of this thing. I think it's 1931. It was like during the Great Depression, recently off of the First World War and all that shit. And these basically the first animal that or it's not really animal, it's more of like a creature that we're gonna talk about. It's called the crawl, and the crawl kind of just like appears everywhere. Like literally, they show the fucking map of like where these things are in each episode,
which is in Canada, by the way, and like the where this world is set is in like where the story of all this like the research documentary company crew and all that stuff that is
based out of Canada.
Yeah, it's based out of Canada.
So I have a theory. It's funny that I didn't know that, but it's funny you say that because if you look at the map, it almost looks like there's a little white speck on the map where none of it's on the map for every single creature. And my theory is maybe this is like some kind of facility or something where like none of these things grow, and there's a reason for that. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to tie into like the overarching story of everything.
Yeah.
And that little white speck on the map is in Canada. So like I think that's like important to the story. I could be wrong. I haven't seen anyone online talking about this, but like I was looking at the map and like just staring at it when I was watching the video yesterday or the day before, and I was like, there's definitely, it looks like, I mean, it could just be because it's supposed to be a shitty analog looking video or whatever, so it could just be a fucking white speck on the screen. But also, it looks like that's just a white speck where nothing grows there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So these the crawl are these like viney type, not creatures, but they resemble like a large intestine, and they grow kind of like.
I was thinking of it kind of like a tendril-esque root.
Yeah.
That is like more.
I just have the note. No, I agree. Actually, I think
War of the Worlds, like the one with Tom Cruise.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like the meaty vine shit. Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking. I just have in my notes here that it resembles a large intestine because that's what it says in the video. Like all of these notes I have written down are just things that they said in the video.
Yeah.
I said look somewhat like a branch. That wasn't something they say in there, but when I was looking at
Yeah,
the video of what it had put on there, I was like, it kind of resembles somewhat like a branch or something. It almost looks like the
yeah.
branch of a tree.
I think a
But
lot of these creatures kind of produce in more of like in a plant type fashion. I mean, like they some of them do consume things or whatever,
yeah,
one thing or another, but
we'll get to it
also
here
like
in a second. But one of them, there's only one that produces by mitosis, where it splits like
mm,
a bacteria, basically. But it's funny you say that because my next note was it grows in a similar pattern because you're saying how it's like similar to plants or whatever. And my next note is it grows in a similar pattern to vines, mold, and fungus. Um, oh, I
almost
already
like a
point.
mycelium map
Yeah, yeah.
of blood tissue.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like it almost looks like the vessels in one's body, kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thing.
And then you get to where what's the next little critter called? That
I was about to get to that.
yeah,
So the last note I have on the crawl here says that all the creatures in this series grow from the crawl, and the crawl literally grows fucking everywhere.
yeah,
And I don't have this in my notes, but like one little bit about the crawl before we stop talking about it is like you would assume that like this very invasive species that just shows up out of nowhere in the 1930s might be hurting some other plant life like kudzu or something because like that's usually what invasive species do as far as plant life or whatever. But it actually makes food and like all sorts of other shit thrive when it grows in those areas. Like it makes all the agriculture and all sorts of shit. So like it's kind of like breathing all this life back into like what the fuck is going on.
yeah.
And
Which is
that
also like and well, I mean, I'm and we'll get to this, but like that's also a tool that some of the uh evolutions of it
yeah,
use like, to its, but you know what I'm
to
saying,
its
because
advantage. I
it
agree.
needs things to thrive around it
Yes.
for
For it to
to
keep
eat and
continue.
grow and
Yes.
everything, and also and so I think that is why that is one of the reasons why humanity kind of let it continue to thrive
Yes.
instead of trying to find. So, well, of course, there's like a whole bunch of other stuff too that we'll get into,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it like they need it. Like there's that symbiosis of it,
Yeah.
but
There's
it's
definitely
also
like
like
a symbiosis
it's
of the whole thing.
100% one sided,
Yes.
and we just think it's benefiting us because we're ignorant as
I
humans.
I agree. I don't think as far as the videos that I've seen, it doesn't straight up say that it is this parasitic thing, but it definitely gives vibes of like a parasitic relationship. It's not symbiotic like the documentary kind of portrays it. You also, from watching the other videos, you start to realize that the documentary is clearly done by a company that's like very pro fucking. It's very
Yeah,
pro.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
trying to make it seem like it's this like great thing.
And I guess we're going to kind of get into this in the next episode because the first episode is all going to be about the documentary, but the other half of the season is clearly written from like the people that are kind of rebelling against this company that made the documentary.
Hmm.
Like they're clearly like trying to show the truth behind all of these things. And because we'll get into it here in a minute. There's a whole thing about weapons that we'll talk about when we get there. But the next animal on the list is trimmings, and trimmings are like they spawn as like little orb type
Yeah,
creatures
yeah. They're
on
like
the
a little
vines or
pod.
whatever. Yeah,
Like
a pod. That's the word I
yeah,
was looking for. That's a great word.
yeah.
Uh,
That's why I relate the crawl to more like a plant like thing because
yeah,
it grows the pod and then the pod splits and drops off and then the
yeah,
seed allows and then it's and I also view that as like there's male and female seeds and stuff when
yeah,
it comes
yeah,
to plants. You get the male that will be inevitably one creature that we'll talk about, and then you have the of I think maybe a female
yeah.
which
Um,
becomes these, and
so I kind of had a theory on that too. We'll get there more when
they
we
don't
talk
really
about it.
specify these creatures have any gender. Also, a
Yeah,
side note, it's not like that. I just
yeah.
think like how
I talked
there's
to Bella about it today before we came and got you, and I was basically saying like you notice the trimmings, these animals that we're talking about now, have at the least six legs. And the other animal that we'll talk about here in a minute, they resemble the trimmings when they're first born, but they have four legs. And I think that
yeah.
four-legged trimmings turn into this other creature. Basically, that's my theory on it. Is that like a four-legged trimming will turn into the other
Oh
thing?
no, definitely
That
they do. Yeah,
yeah. Um, but so everywhere I see, like I've seen some shit on the internet, I've listened to some podcasts. They even say in the analog horror that these trimmings resemble skinned raccoons. They look like skinless raccoons, and to me, I even have this in my notes. They look more like a fleshy, meaty tick. But Bailey made the resemblance and said that they kind of look like turtles. And
Yeah,
when I was
it kind of
there's
resembles a turtle, but also, like a water bear. How a water bear has
oh
the
yeah,
little like
yeah.
it's almost like that.
But Bailey made the comment about turtles or whatever, and there's a video where you kind of see someone taking care of this whole thing. I guess we'll kind of talk more about that in the next episode. But there's like a whole video on how to take care of your trimming, and like people start keeping these things as pets. And there's like you see a physical, they have like a physical thing here for the trimming, and it almost looks like they took like some kind of tortoise or something and painted it red. Like it does very much resemble
Yeah,
like a fleshy
yeah,
turtle.
beaky and everything. And
Yeah.
I like a side note for aside from like the story and everything, the art, like the
The
effects and shit.
physical,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
the
physical
physical
effects that they
aspect
do,
to it.
and
Yeah,
it's very interesting how they have this like they make these puppets to
yeah.
resemble certain creatures. But it's well, actually, I guess it's the one is the next one we'll get into, and then the trimmings, and it's like it moves, like
Yeah,
its
yeah.
mouth
It
moves,
looks
and it's like
great.
and like there's like enough mobility into it to where it kind of gives it emotion.
I in my head I resembled it more to a tick when I first saw it because it's like a meaty, fleshy, like mammal tick looking thing. I resembled it to that because it has at the least six legs, but can have more than six legs. And just like the
You
multiple
made me
legs
say that.
thing.
I'm pretty sure ticks have 8 legs. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
they're.
that's why I resemble because
Oh yeah, yeah.
they have multiple legs. They show a picture of one and it has like 12 fucking legs or some shit like that.
Really?
But like
I didn't. I don't know.
yeah, in the thing with the trimmings, like yeah, they should. It says that they have at least trimmings have at least six legs, but they can have more, and
That's
they'll have like
crazy. I must have fucking looked away when they were
oh
showing that
shit,
part. A 12-legged trimming.
yeah,
That's
they can have
nuts.
lots of legs basically. But that's kind of where my theory came from. Is like the trimmings can have six or more legs, and like it just keeps going up and up from there.
A
But
tortoise caterpillar kind of shit. That's what
yeah,
they
kind
look
of like a
like.
tortoise caterpillar.
Like the cute little front legs that are all suction
Yeah,
cuppy and stuff.
but
Cute little guys. It's like completely grotesque,
my
but it's cute.
theory is that like because they're born out of these pods like you said, my theory is that if they're born from these pods and for some reason they're born with less than six legs, I think they end up turning into the mimic, which is like the monster we're going to
Yeah.
get to here in a minute. But what is it, they grow, oh, so these things grow off the crawl, we already talked about that. These trimmings spawn pretty much anywhere that there is crawl. They're one of the most frequently like seen creatures in this universe. As far as like all the different creatures go. Um, Most humanity consider them pests or nuisances, similar to like raccoons. They eat trash and like go through people's
Yeah.
shit, and it's like a whole thing. But some people do try to keep them as pets. Was the last little note that I had in here, and that's pretty much all on the trimmings that I've got.
And then the next one, I actually have. You were talking about
The
the theorized theory for like the other pod like thing that
Yeah, if it, I think that if trimmings have less than six legs, they end up becoming mimics, which is not the
well.
next creature, but it's the
So what? So what it explain? It does explain that. It explains. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to the mimics, but because there, it separates
yeah,
like the out of the 8 creatures,
yeah,
there's three and then three,
yeah,
and the three is the fuck
yeah.
I get the little shell thingy, the worm thingy, and then fucking one more thing, I believe, and then it goes at no, and then it talks about the other pod, and then the other pod is
So
what creates like the mimic, and then the
yeah,
mimic goes to like the elder mimic or
so
whatever the fuck.
it never straight up says that the trimmings. I mean, they all spawn from the crawl, obviously, but it never straight up says that the mimics and the trimmings are straight up the same creature. But basically, what I was saying was my theory was that they are basically the same creature, and I think
Yeah,
that mimics are basically just trimmings that are born with four legs, which like makes sense because they say that mimics are born looking like trimmings. So like,
and it's fucking, and I think I don't know. We'll get to it. We'll
see,
get to it
it's
whenever we get
either
to the creature.
the only thing that would really make sense is either they are trimmings that are born with four legs, or because they're mimics and they're born to mimic other creatures, they're born mimicking trimmings, and then as they get older, they begin to mimic humans. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's one of those two things.
And
Like
there's one of the creepier aspects of the mimics too.
the
Like, are you
mimics are the
talking about?
scariest fucking thing in this whole fucking series. Anyway, we're not talking about the mimics yet. That's after. We're talking about the meat snakes right now.
The fucking meat snakes.
The
I think these
fucking
things are fucking
meat
so cool.
snakes.
Meat snakes.
Yeah, we're
So
talking
these
about.
meat snakes are like, they're like, what? One
It's
thing I think
exactly
is
what it
cool.
sounds like.
It's
A
a
fleshy
fleshy
snake
snake.
that looks like it's
Yeah,
made out of raw meat
yeah.
almost. Yeah, that's kind
And
of like
its
how it's.
mouth hole, they usually use like they use the skull of the things that they eat.
Yeah,
Like they
it explains
it
that in
explains that it
the
eats something,
episode.
and there's enzymes in its stomach to keep whatever it eats alive as long as possible.
Yeah.
And then it like
No,
and
no,
then
no,
it
no, 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 no. The meat snake is the one that only eats dead things, right? Am I?
no, no, it eats like it slowly like eats things and it like gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, no, it only eats dead material. I have that note written here. The meat snake
Oh,
is the one that
I'm
only
pretty
eats.
sure. I'm pretty sure like it'll like eat shit, but it'll. I'm pretty positive it keeps it alive in its stomach.
No, because it only eats dead material. Because this is the meat snake is the one that they let loose after wars and shit, and it goes through and eats all the dead debris basically on the battlefield. The meat snakes they specifically talk about how like they only eat dead things. They only get to about 16 feet long, but during times of war get much bigger, which you kind of see it in one of the episodes where like one gets so big that it's like blocking a whole subway system.
Which
Um,
is fucking insane. But they use the skulls as the things that they eat for whatever they need it for, like eat like crushing things,
yeah,
fucking grinding shit. They save like bones and nails and all that shit just to get it like anyway.
yeah.
And I was imagining this snake with like a human skull used as
So on top of like they only eat dead things, I have this written in my note. It says in the video, it actually doesn't have the capability of consuming living things. Which again, we're talking about the documentary part of
yeah.
things. So like if you remember, the documentary part we think is from the company that's trying to brainwash everybody. And you could be right in that because remember the second half of the season I think is from like the people that are trying to rebel against the company that made the documentary series. So you could be right, and in the video about the meat snake, they might say, "Hey, it actually eats living people." And what's really going on in the documentary is they're trying to convince people through the
Yeah, that
documentary
these things are
that they only
harmless.
eat dead things, but in
Yeah.
reality, they eat whatever.
Yeah. Anything they
I
get their
didn't
hands
actually
on.
finish the episode on the meat snake, so you could be right. They could actually eat dead
Yes,
things.
like from what I
Does it say in the? It says in the episode
yeah,
that they.
I'm like 90% positive that it's like there's an enzyme in its
Well,
stomach
you haven't
that
been very positive when you said shit like that. I can't trust it.
fuck
He was he was 99% positive. He was 100 days sober the other day.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just fucking with you.
No, I think I'm pretty sure because I remember I watched it and I was like I had to go back and rewatch most of the thing because I was doing dishes and I wasn't
Yeah.
paying attention. And I actually now I was outside
So
smoking a joint.
so I can't speak on that half because I will say I didn't finish the second half of the season or whatever. I got most of the way through the second half of the season, but I can speak as far as the documentary because I watched the documentary episodes more than once. And in the documentary about all these creatures, it does say that they can't consume dead material and they don't even have the capability of eating living things. Um, their body grows when they eat, and basically it like shits out all the bones and hair is like one of the things it talks about in the
Yeah,
documentary.
yeah,
It
like
like
the
basically
fingernails and shit.
yeah, and basically the meat of the person or whatever it eat, the dead thing that it eats, basically becomes a part of its body. Is like a whole fucking thing
Which
that
is
it talks
so
about.
grotesque. Like
Yeah,
being, I don't know. I just think a blob of meat, blob of flesh that can,
a snaky blob of
yeah, that
flesh that
takes
just
you
like
over and makes you a part of its anatomy and
yeah,
shit.
that's
Like,
basically what it does.
and then
Yeah,
spits out your
all of these things
bones.
are fucking nightmare fuel. It's
Yeah,
fucking crazy. Um,
you got me gesagt.
The longest living meat snake known lived for 28 years. Uh, it said something about they don't die of natural causes. They die through like starvation and burning. I know that there were more things in the episode, but that's all I have written down here, and I can't remember exactly the other ways to kill them. But
Imagine a creature that's just unable to die.
Yeah, it doesn't die. Well, we don't really know what, like, because they could have a natural lifespan. Honestly, if the longest living one only lived 28 years, they could just have a natural lifespan, but they just get like burned or
Oh yeah,
starve or like,
they're just
yeah,
destroyed before they have a chance to do their natural thing.
yeah.
Damn, Sonny.
Um, I have it written down here. It says humans use meat snakes as like waste bins. They'll use them in butcher shops in this
Oh
universe,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they'll throw them out on the battlefield, and they'll consume all the dead bodies. And they even use them in zoos. When the animals die in the zoos, they'll basically just throw the animal to the meat snakes, which is insane. That's like fucking,
Yeah.
that's wild. But I think that's it on the meat snakes. We're gonna get to our favorite one. This is the one I have the most written for now. Did you have more on the meat snake?
I no, I think I was gonna say I think this corporation or whatever is like they're implementing things like this so these things can be more readily available and just more prevalent in society. So
Yeah, because
whenever some shit hits the fan, people won't be ready for it, and all these
I
creatures will
agree.
be acclimated and everything. And there's
And
nothing we
we're
can really do to
that
stop it.
definitely relates to the mimics that we're about to talk about here, because there's something that we both talked about earlier. What this is very contradictory from what you hear in the documentary versus what you see later in the whole thing. Um, But the mimics, so I mean, I kind of spoiled this earlier, but the mimics grow to look like humans. They start off looking like four-legged trimmings, and then they
Yeah, like
grow
there's
to
these
look.
little skinny, decrepit, like skeleton dog monster looking
I would
thingies.
so I've seen so much saying they look like the Titans from Attack on Titan, like the colossal Titan without the skin and shit. But they're like the
Mm-hmm.
size of humans roughly. But they just don't have any skin or anything. I would say if you guys have ever played Until Dawn or you know what that game is, they look like the Wendigos from that game, just without any skin.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
That's you know what game I'm talking about? Yeah,
yeah.
like they look like that's what they look like
Their
to
long
me.
fingers.
Yeah, with their long fingers and shit, they look like Wendigos from Until Dawn. They just skinless
Mm-hmm.
Wendigos. Um, what I have? They have like these long limbs. Like their limbs are a little bit too long. They have like these naturally like teeth filled mouths kind of um which like you learn
And
a
they
little.
resemble a smile.
Yeah, and
Resemble a
their
smile.
mouths are so creepy. Their mouths naturally resemble a smile. They're not
Mm-hmm.
constantly smiling like that. They all just kind of naturally, the way their muscles form is
Yeah.
like they all just naturally have this smile.
and and the more they eat people, the more human like they become. But also, when they become like an elder
So
mimic,
so that's what I was about to get into is they have like two evolutions. One of them's an elder mimic, which we don't really get to see in the
yeah, we don't
series,
really get to see. But
but
it talks about how they what the
they
creator
begin to grow hair and
yeah
like.
what the creator does is he uses like sketches and shit like that. Like it's almost like it's like a picture of
Yeah,
somebody's field journal or some shit like
the
that. You know what I'm
documentary is
saying?
done really well.
It's
Yeah,
done really well. So, and it's like he like sketch. It looks like he sketched all this stuff out on his notepad when he was creating the stuff for the show.
yeah, and then
And
he
he's
just
like
put the
using
sketches.
his yeah. It's
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
taking a picture of stuff that he used to create that.
I love
And
that for him.
I think that is really kick ass.
Yeah,
And like there's a part where it shows like the side profile
yeah,
of an elder mimic, and it has like how the teeth shift farther back down the
yeah.
throat.
Their teeth
Like
go down. So for both evolution, I'm not going to get into the evolutions yet because I wanted to talk a little bit about how they hunt before we talk about what they evolve into when they hunt. Um, but for both of the evolutions that there are, there's the elder mimic, and then I forget what the name is for the other one, but I've been calling it like the hulking mimic because it
yeah,
just turns into this fucking massive creature. But they both have teeth that go all the way back in their mouths, almost like snapping turtles, because like
yeah,
snapping turtles have like teeth, just rows of teeth that go all the way down their throat and shit. And that's kind of how both evolutions of the mimic kind of turn into. Um, but anyway, the way that they hunt humans. Humans are their these are
yeah.
the
They solely eat humans at this
they
point.
yeah they solely eat humans and they stalk them. They don't like just go out in the streets and fucking ravage humans or
Yeah.
whatever. They stalk them
Mm-hmm.
and they follow your routine before they like attempt to eat you or whatever, and they won't strike unless they know that you absolutely can't escape.
Yeah.
Like they,
Yeah.
if they know you have some kind of like getaway plan or something, they'll stop chasing you basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Once they have their sights on you, they have their sights on you.
and oh my god, the episode in the documentary, like how it ends with like
Over.
you
Yeah, it
see a
cuts to the
mimic.
person.
Yeah, you see so that's the person. They're in a closet hiding from a mimic basically, and you hear them walking around the room, and there's like knocking on the door before the door opens. Like they're trying to scare the piss out of people basically
Yeah.
before they eat them.
They want
Like
you to feel the most beautiful, the most vulnerable,
yeah, yeah.
and also, it's later in the instructional videos when it says, and even in this, like it kind of talks about what not to do, what to do.
Oh
Um,
yeah, the PSA. I was gonna
this
talk
person
about.
is actually like doing it, like like hide, like run and hide, and then
Oh
if you
yeah,
hide,
I didn't
it'll lose
even.
interest and just like leak because it's like all right, whatever, fuck it,
I
got
didn't
away.
think about that, but you're right. There's a PSA at the end of the video, and it kind of explains what you should do. And
Mm-hmm.
the video in the documentary is doing what they're saying in the
Yeah,
PSA, pretty
and
much.
it doesn't work, and it
And
corners. It's like
yeah,
cornered right
and
there.
it's so oh god, it's so fucking creepy because you see like the fingers wrap around the door
Yeah,
in the video, and then it's like faces like peeking out through the door, and you see the smile. It's so
and it hops out, and it's like a puppet, but like,
yeah,
god damn it, dude! I was
it's
watching it. I said, "Fuck that puppet's scary as hell."
yeah, it's fucking it's effective. And like, the podcast I was listening to about it was basically saying like it's not so much your visuals don't have to be great. You can have a fucking stupid puppet, or you can have like just literally fucking like have it be machinima inside of a fucking video game, like some red versus blue shit.
Yeah.
And as long as like you're telling a good story and you have some visual way of showing it, people are probably going to be interested in it. And like
Yeah,
I was like that's a pretty kick-ass way of looking at it because like some of the things in the series are a little shitty looking, but it definitely gets across the message that he's trying to get across.
Yeah, it's like it's all very like raw feeling, raw looking, raw feel, and I mean, it's very effective for what it's going for. It definitely hit everything right on the nose.
Yeah,
and it kept me interested in what the fuck was going on the whole time.
It's a super interesting story.
Sure. And it catches you right there on the tail end, and if you fucking blink and you miss it, kind of shit. But it catches you. Also, throughout the whole series, there's like parts where like it's chopped up. Like the episodes, the further on down the tree you get, everything's like a little more choppy.
Yeah.
It's almost like things are getting cut out of the documentary. Yeah. And
you see flashes of some shit, which there's one thing that's like flashing that I kind of want to talk about, but not for this creature. There's another creature coming up where I want to talk about the flashes. But like every episode, there's flashes of shit, and you can kind of scrub through the YouTube videos and kind of just look at what the flashes are. But there's definitely information all throughout these videos that we're definitely missing. And there's a whole story being told throughout all of the episodes for the last creature that we'll eventually get to here. But more on the mimic, I guess, trying to stay focused to talking about each creature. If the mimic eats a healthy diet of humans, it'll turn into an elder mimic, which looks more like a human. Their limbs become a little bit more normal looking. They grow skin, they grow nails and hair and all sorts of shit. Or no, they don't grow nails. They specifically say that's one of the ways you can kind of tell.
That they don't have fingernails?
Yeah, if they don't have... It says their fingers will be a little bit too long and they won't have fingernails. That's one of the ways you can tell. And like the way that their eyes look and like their fucking grotesque smile and like if their nose is a little bit too flat. There's like just little telltale signs you can tell if you're looking at an elder mimic, basically. Yeah, just little shit like that. So I would just, for the most part, be looking, because like you never know if you're just looking at a fucked up person. Maybe their nose is fucked up. Maybe they just like have a fixed smile like that or something. Just look for the fingernails, people. Like that's what I would do. That's what I would be doing.
Quit looking at people's feet, ladies and gentlemen, and look at their fingernails.
Fuck yeah.
It's well known that these creatures have toenails.
They got them little tootsies. You know
they got them tootsie nails. Anyway, whatever.
No, but so if it eats a well diet, it becomes an elder mimic. It's a more evolved version of the mimic. But if they eat too much and they're just gorging on fucking people, they will eventually evolve into these hulking mimics, and they're these massive fucking creatures. They start to grow like what does it say? It's like they're their bodies become black pretty much. Like they start to get this like black color to it or whatever, and their faces become like more fleshy looking. I guess it explains it kind of weird. I'm trying to remember
I'm
exactly.
trying to. I actually don't remember that.
Oh well, anyway, these hulking mimics, fucking they'll sit up in like parks and shit, and like they're so big at this point, it takes like a lot of energy to like exert for different shit. Um, but basically, they just like they'll sit up in like trees and parks and shit, and they'll just like wait for people to be walking through there at night, and basically just beat the shit out of you and eat you.
Oh my
Um,
god, that's
yeah,
horrible.
that's
I
fucking
don't
awful.
remember seeing that in that
You
episode.
don't remember the fucking big? I mean, I'll show you too. I'll show it to you after. But I mean, it was definitely in there, and it was in the podcast that I was listening to. No, but it's funny because the PSA at the end of the episode is like, and I was kind of talking to Bailey about this the other day, and I was just laughing thinking about it. The PSA basically explains to treat these motherfuckers like bears. Like if you
Yeah,
see one,
if you see one.
hopefully it
Yeah,
hasn't seen you
if it
yet,
hasn't
and you
seen
just
you yet,
you need to
yeah,
back up slowly and get
back
out of
up
there.
slow, get the fuck up out of there. And
Uh,
also, if it's chasing you, run towards a highly populated area and like the whole
and
time
scream.
scream.
And it was saying if it
If it,
gets you,
yeah,
you need to curl up in a ball and scream as loud as you can, and hopefully someone will hear you. And
yeah,
these are all things that they tell you to do if you see a fucking bear in the
yeah.
woods.
And
Like,
they say if you have a weapon, don't
oh,
use it.
that's yes,
Use it to put a barrier between you and the person.
yes, that's specifically something it says in the episode is that if you have a weapon, don't use it because it won't be effective in the time that you have. Basically, is what
Yeah,
it says, and that is so not fucking true.
yeah. That's still
Like,
not fucking true because in the later episodes they're like, oh yeah, headshots
well,
and
we'll
leg
talk.
shots.
We'll talk about it in the next episode. But yeah, no, it's not fucking true. Um, I feel like I had more to say on the whole PSA thing. It's just like I don't know.
Yeah, it's almost like the PSA is telling you
It's
everything
giving
you
you
need to
bad
not
advice.
hear,
Yeah.
so you can so these mimics
It
can eventually become.
it tells you not to travel alone at night because like mimics will
Yeah.
just
Also,
fucking get.
like it says if you heard of any mimic sighting or anything like that, don't go near that area
Yeah.
alone. Da, da, da.
Oh,
But
and then
also,
also
and there's shots. What throughout the show, there's like shots from like different people's social media accounts that they're doing, and so like there's like the I remember one of the names was some. So, it was a joke on there's a joke on genocide, but like the username was something great. But like it was supposed to be like, oh haha, genocide. Anyway, I
yeah,
thought that's how I know. That's how I knew to remember it because I was like, that's fucked up. I'm gonna
that's
remember
fucked
that.
up.
Anyway, um, the creator uses like different fake social media accounts to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
show like people posting pictures online of these different things, and
yeah.
uh, one of them was the um. Now I'm fucking drawing a blank. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
We were talking about
Um,
2 seconds beforehand. The fucking
not going alone. Whenever fuck, what was I trying to say here a second ago? Yeah, no, it's just all kind of fucking.
yeah. I remember now. I remember. Now. Sorry, but some of the shots were like of known places that mimics were able to hide, and
Yeah.
it's like somebody's couch, like underneath their
Oh
like
yeah,
in their
yeah.
couch
I forgot.
waiting for them,
I
and like the
totally,
eyes looking through and shit like that.
I totally forgot
Totally
about that. It
terrifying.
says that they're able to. What is the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say mold, but they're able to fit into like
Any space,
any
any space
yeah,
that they can.
they're able to fit into spaces that you wouldn't expect them to. They're very limber and like just like I don't know. There were like all sorts of pictures of like they can fit in like weird spots in your shed, and they can fit. They can fit almost fucking anywhere. Basically, is what it gets to.
Yeah,
And it's like
and the one shot
I forgot
underneath
that
the
was a
suit.
fucking thing. I didn't even write that down. That's a good point.
Yeah,
There.
that absolutely terrified me. But
Yeah.
I love the creator.
This is the creepiest fucking part of the whole series. And I will say, I'm gonna save this for the next episode when we're talking about like the next thing is more like stories and like social media type things of like these creatures. And there was I think it was a creepypasta because I have no idea how this has anything to do to relate with the analog horror. And I was listening to a podcast and it just starts telling a story. It was the whole thing. I mean, hang on. Fucking Grandma, why are you calling me right now? That definitely just paused because she called me. I think we're gonna go ahead and get to the next one. That's all the notes I have on the mimics. That's definitely the creepiest fucking thing. If you guys go watch any video in this series, go and watch the documentary video on the mimics. Yeah. It's definitely the creepiest fucking thing that I've seen in the whole series.
It's one of the better, like this got practical effects. Yeah. Like it has
everything that's like good about the whole series is in this video. Like he does everything. Yeah. Like all the good little bits are all in here.
It's definitely like a peak episode, like one that like is meant to really draw your interest. Yeah, and that's around the time when you really start to notice it's like someone putting in these VHS tapes that are like the different parts of the documentary.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, like at the end of it, you can hear like the tape winding down and ejecting, and the person breathing heavy in the background.
The next creature we're going to talk about here is the Harvester, which starts off as like a big fleshy mass on the crawler. And I don't think it really moves. It didn't really say anything about it moving in the video. But they have like these tendrils and shit that like burrow into the ground, and it's almost like roots. But like these tendrils can come out, right? That's what it was saying. Like so the tendrils can come out.
It's like the way the anatomy shows, it's like these tendrils, but it's also like this map of spikes.
Yeah. It's like a pod and has like roots that are also like tendrils, and they have spikes, and it's a creepy fucking creature. Honestly, it's really
it's a really like Eldritch-esque creature.
These really things get up, so its root tendril system thing that goes into the ground gets up to 150 meters, which, if you do the math, is 492 feet.
Yeah.
That's at least 200 feet on both ends of it, and like
and the way it spreads out, like
it's
you have to, and it purposely lets smaller things go away, like it eats bigger things so it can get big.
Yeah, that was the thing. It doesn't attack small animals. It'll leave squirrels and rabbits and shit alive so that it can attract bigger predators. And then it can fucking just grab up the fucking bigger animals.
Just yoink that motherfucker.
Yeah.
And it talks about like if you happen to have the chance to notice the pod before it notices you, and you haven't pressed on a thing yet.
Spikes have like fucking poison.
Yeah. There's different like the spikes on the ground, the spikes that come up through the ground from the first layer.
Yeah.
Those are a neurotoxin. And then the ones from the root system are clotted, like they clot your arteries.
Yeah.
So
it said. So I have this in my notes. It says, the video states there is no cure for the poison.
Oh yeah, you're dead.
You're dead. You basically get hit by this thing, and what they say, like, there's kind of a PSA at the end. It's not the same as like the mimic PSA, but they basically say if you get caught in like the nesting area of one of these things, basically you need to throw a bag or like whatever object you have, you need to fucking chuck that bitch
so that it grab that and you run the fuck up.
Yeah, it said you need to like fucking, what was it? You need to take wide like vertical steps. Wide shuffling steps. You need to like Zoidberg out of there basically. You need to do some shit like that and get the fuck out of there.
Fucking sandwalk like a motherfucker.
You need a sandwalk. That's a great fucking example. We can talk about doing a lot in here. I don't know why I didn't think about that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have on that one. That was kind of a shorter video.
One thing I thought was really cool that it pointed out was, like when you're walking on trails or anything like that, stick around trees.
Yeah.
Big rocks. Yeah. Anything that already has like a solid root system because it needs open space.
It needs open space to grow.
And the way I was imagining it would be if you're walking through the woods and you come upon a meadow, almost like the way that mushrooms work again.
Yeah.
Because like heavily influenced. Most of these creatures are heavily mushroom influenced, in my opinion. Like you said, fungal, mold, shit like that.
They grow like bacteria and fungus and like all sorts of.
So with the way a mycelium map works, like I don't know if you know who. Goddamn, I can't ever remember the name of this guy. He's a mycologist. He's a dude that walks around with a mushroom hat.
Yeah, on Joe Rogan. Yeah.
He talks about meadows like that are made to promote grazing and animals. They shit and all this stuff, or they this and the third, so all that nutrients goes there. Anyway, so the way it works, in my mind, the way it works is kind of like that.
Yeah,
and the sense of it lures you into this place that's supposed to be peaceful, and then you see this fucking crazy looking fucking creature. You ever seen the movie Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
Tom Cruise fucking.
Yeah.
That's our second Tom Cruise movie reference in this episode.
Is it?
But yeah, I made one a little while ago.
I don't remember.
But the queen of the alien thing that they're doing,
Yeah.
that like has the tendrils and it's almost like got like Sarlacc-y looking and all that shit. That's what I imagine.
Yeah, no, something. So yeah, it's like a pod, but it's got like this fucking 100% agree.
Yeah. And once again, it has like the anatomy sketch of it in the notebook, and I think that is really cool that each character includes that.
Just the whole fact of like its whole root system stretching out from end to end, almost 500 feet is fucking insane to me.
Yeah, 500-foot radius.
Yeah,
like not just on one direction or another. Yeah. A radius.
Yeah, you basically don't even have to see this thing to be within its grasp.
Yeah, like it's like you come across it, you're fucking dead. I had one of these pecan ones earlier, so fucking good. Yeah. Side note, shouts out to fucking caramel candies.
Shout out to Rocket Fizz.
Rocket Fizzle. My what? Anyway. But yeah, that is one of the ones that I'm most interested in. That one and the next one, which is almost like an evolution.
The host. Right? Yeah, they're very similar, aren't they? I was thinking that too, that these two are very similar. The host is kind of humanoid looking. Yeah. The way they show it. It's got like a head like a human. It kind of has like some limbs, it looked like. Yeah. Looks but like from hands. The torso down, it's like rooted into the ground. Yeah, it's basically. Almost like tree-like. Once again, with the plant-ish thing. And also, too, with the whole social media aspect that the creator of the story that's in there is... Let me make sure your light's on. Is your light off on the thing? It is indeed off.
Better click that bad boy.
I think it's dead. Oh. Yeah, it died immediately. Died immediately. So well, we can hold this one. We can hold.
I got you.
Why don't I... Hang on. Kind of have to change how we're recording this right in the middle of the episode, but it'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll survive. Yeah,
we'll survive.
But once again, the artist uses fake social media accounts to show like the only known photo of the host creature. Yeah. And it's the character is far enough away or the person who sees far enough away to where the effects of it are reportedly not working on it.
So the whole thing about the host is basically it's this animal. It's animal-like. It's kind of human-like. But it releases spores into the air.
Yeah, out of these, it almost looks like spikes, but they're hollowed-out cones that these spores leak out of.
I forget exactly how it phrases it in the documentary, but it's not really known how far these spores can reach you from like where they are. And there's not a lot known about like these things visually. Like it's not like the Mimic where like these things have just been seen all over the place. But basically, if these spores get to you, you'll just start following the beaten path to find the fucking host. Yeah. And basically, so the most grotesque thing about the host to me was that it said, how did it phrase it? It said that you present your organs or whatever. Yeah. Like you basically rip yourself open and present your organs to this thing, and it eats you from. It eats all your vital organs and then fucking throws the waste away for you to... I don't know. It's just fucking... Yeah,
that is absolutely horrid.
So grotesque. I was watching that. I was like, oh my God.
It's almost like...
And another crazy thing, because I sent you the whole, like... It wasn't a retrospective, but it was kind of like a breakdown of the whole thing. They didn't talk about that on there, and the podcast I was listening to didn't talk about that. So when I finally went and watched the episode, and they're talking about how, like, it makes you rip yourself open, basically, and present your vital organs to it. I was like, why is nobody fucking talking about this? This is the most grotesque part of the fucking host.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost it's very eldritchy, and the last few are very eldritchy in that aspect where it's almost like a worship this giant unknown thing.
This like one I think also has a lot to do with the flavor enhancer that we're not going to really talk about on here. We'll talk about more on the next episode. But I think this thing has so much to do with the flavor enhancer.
Yeah, it's almost like the more you get into it, the more you think that it might be like a government plot or something like that. It has I kind of have an idea. I think it all has to relate to the final creature that we'll get to here in a second. But I think the last thing I was about to move on, but the last thing about the host is if you are on like the beaten path headed to the host, basically, if someone catches you and realizes like what's going on or whatever, you can seek medical attention. Or if you realize early enough, I think is what it said. If
if you realize early enough that you've been affected by the spores before it like really starts to kick in and you start to go looking for the host, you can seek medical help. And basically they'll tie you up for 36 hours. If you're restrained for 36 hours, you'll no longer be affected by the spores.
If you like, it says if somebody stops you, prevents you from getting to where the path is taking you, or if there's somehow you can't make it and you're within that 36-hour time, it just it just wears off and you're completely fine, but like it'll just go away and you like don't remember the last 36 hours.
Before we move on to the next creature, I just remembered I totally missed something about the harvester, the pod-like creature with the fucking 500-foot radius of root system around it and shit. There's a part that I had written down here for the harvester, and basically if you scrub through the video, you'll see a flash of a newspaper article, and basically what it is it's talking about a family that was consumed by a harvester, and it's like, I don't know, it's a really...
Yeah.
And then this ends up coming back later on in the whole fucking timeline of all this, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But as far as what the newspaper clipping says, it says that this family was consumed by a harvester, and the police basically aren't doing anything about it. All they did was put up a sign saying there's a harvester in the area, because that's how hard these things are to get rid of. Pretty much all these creatures are very difficult to get rid of, but the harvester specifically is difficult to get rid of, and the police are just going to put up a sign, and that's like them trying their best, I guess, you know, like,
yeah, that's them being like, what the fuck you want me to do, bro? Like,
yeah, like I can't even get within 500 feet of it.
I can't get close enough to shoot it with my fucking police issued pistol. Like,
I think 500 feet's close enough to shoot it, but like, yeah, you're right.
Like, I can't get a fucking direct hit at 500 fucking feet. Or what is it? Well, you said five.
It's 500 square radius, so it'd be like 250 feet roughly.
There you go. Foul!
You could get a shot off at 200.
I could probably get a shot. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I'm a good old boy. I can get a shot off.
I'm a good old boy.
Foul!
But anyway, moving on from the harvester and the host, this one is probably my favorite, like, of all the creatures in this whole thing.
I agree too. Actually, it's one of the
better.
Like,
this thing's fucking cool. So there's 7 of these creatures.
Yeah, there's only 7, and they form a circle around.
They're called the monoliths. And the monoliths are these fucking gargantuan... If you've ever played Shadow of the Colossus, they're like Shadow of the Colossus-esque fucking creatures.
Yeah.
But they're made out of the root system, and they grow out of the ground, and it's fucking... They're part of the
and
crawl.
They're implanted deep within the ground. There's these giant tree trunk-esque feet that go up. And their arms are like... They have arms, and they also have tendrils, right? Or are they just
No,
tendrils?
their tendrils are the arms. It's like their arms grow... Almost like how you were saying the whole mushroom system that you were talking about. That's kind of how their arms grow out, is like this whole fucking viney-esque fucking, I don't know what you would call that. You said it earlier, but it's like how mushrooms grow, that whole
like a mycelium map.
Like a mycelium map. That's kind of how their arms grow out, is like mycelium. And they're all, I wish I wrote down the lake, but they all spawn within like a mile of each other around this one lake. It's not near the Hoover Dam. Fuck, I wish I could remember what lake it was, but they say it at one point in one of the videos. For most of the documentary, though, it's redacted where these things are at. It beeps it out.
Yeah, and this one specifically, it bleeps out most everything.
Yeah, so much of what's... because they don't really want the public knowing about these things, I guess. Yeah. Because basically, these things showed up 40 years... These things showed up in the 70s, which is 40 years after all the other creatures in this series started to appear. And they only appeared around this lake, basically, which it doesn't even say that in the documentary. It's, like, redacted where they grow. And they spawn around this lake within, like, a mile radius of each other and never do anything. Except for one time, they did something. And basically, the government was fucking around with them and found out.
Yeah, the government was like, we gotta blow these motherfuckers up. And they were, like, hitting them with all they got.
Yeah.
And then they're basically like...
And then these things basically set off like a fucking EMP blast and fried all the government's shit.
Yeah, just fucking...
Yeah. And then they were like, okay, well, we can't fuck with these things anymore. We're going to put up a fence everywhere, and...
You're not allowed to go there.
You're not allowed to go there. And then I guess that's all I really have on the fucking monoliths. Did you?
It's... So, I think the... the fact that their heads are like an upside down triangle, kind of like
Yeah. Their heads are like they have like a hollow. I don't want to say hollow, but there's like an opening in their head or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that has something to do with the circle, and also like
because like you said, there's
the tendrils. I think that the tendrils are all gonna
cult symbol. See, this is another whole thing. I'm talking about
circles.
The circles, but it has like a triangle in it, which like. I know it sounds like I'm fucking spoiling it, but if you scrub through the videos, you see the cult symbols all throughout the fucking videos and shit. And it's like a circle with the triangle in it kind of thing. And it's like very similar to what the fuck you're seeing on the heads of these monoliths. But yeah, I think that's all I had on the fucking monoliths now that I can think about it. So the last thing you will not see unless you watch the full documentary video. So like a lot of people that, and I guess I kind of wanted to talk about like the way that people watched these analog horrors and shit. But a lot of people that were watching the analog horrors when they came out, they're watching every video. And then after the documentary was finished, he put out a video called The Full Documentary. And it's all the documentary videos put together basically. And a lot of people didn't watch it because they were like, oh, I've already watched every video in the documentary. Why would I go and watch the full documentary? Yeah. Well, if you don't watch the full documentary, in the last 3 minutes of the full documentary, there's another creature that's added to the whole storyline. And the whole video format of the last creature is completely different than the rest of the documentary. Yeah. And I think that's the start.
Obviously
it's a different person, kind of like... I think the people that made the documentary didn't want the idea of the singularity getting out there. Yeah. And I think this is the start to the whole rebellion storyline that I was kind of talking about with all the other videos this season, because all the other videos in this season kind of have a similar feel to the whole singularity thing.
It's almost like a they're trying to leak out.
Yeah, yes.
They're trying to
and it's a different voice. If you pay attention to the voice that's talking all the way throughout the documentary,
it's a little deeper, isn't it?
I think so. But yeah, it's a different voice than the person that was speaking throughout the whole documentary. And they start, so the singularity is this 3-meter sphere, which is like roughly
maybe that's what's in the lake.
3 meters is like roughly 9 feet or so. Or no, it's roughly that's what it was. It's roughly a meter in diameter, which is roughly 3 feet or so. But anyway, yeah.
So it's just like a ball. That's like a 3 foot.
Yeah, it's like 3 feet around. It's like a big ball. It's like a big black ball. They even say in the video, it's like made out of a mineral. It's not made out of like a viney thing like all the other things. And I think that the singularity is what's causing the crawl and all these other things to exist. And I think the singularity is what's really behind. It's kind of like brainwashing all the cult people. And I think the cult is what's behind the company that's trying to tell people that these things are safe, It's like trying to convince. So the singularity is kind of
this eldritch horror is fucking.
Yeah, it's not this eldritch horror or anything. And I think that's kind of all that like we don't really know a whole lot about the singularity. I think the singularity is at the lake, and the singularity created the colossals, the monoliths, to protect it basically. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what's going on there. And there's not really.
It shows different. Graphs too of the. Oh, also we missed something about the hosts.
About the hosts.
But the hosts are only found in North America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're only found like in the American part of North America.
Huh. I don't think I was paying enough attention for the hosts video because I don't remember the map for the hosts.
They spawn from like in like the Appalachian kind of.
But
shit.
Like kind of close to where the singularity would probably be. Yeah. So it only. That's interesting, though. And we're running out of time here on the Riff Ranch, but next week's episode, which we're about to record here in a second, is going to be the other half of our VITA CARNIS video. So if you're interested in this, go check out VITA CARNIS and join us back here on the ranch next week, where we'll be continuing the rest of the season, basically.
And, of course, look out for the description. We'll add our Patreon and our social media accounts, and also we'll tag the person who made VITA CARNIS, so you can go check out.
Oh yeah, I think I'll leave a a link for the whole playlist if you guys want to check it out. It'll be here in the description of whatever you're watching this on.
Oh, yeah.
And go follow us on Instagram. Hit us a subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Follow
like,
us
comment,
on Spotify,
subscribe, it'll
Apple
help us.
Podcasts.
Oh, yeah. OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Go check me out on Cash App at KyleAnthony365.
Oh, yeah. Find me on Feet Finder at _
Do you really have
Damn Bailey, them feet is tight. What?
Damn Bailey, them feet is tight.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to fit all those characters in. It was one big word. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. This has been the Riff Ranch. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Dad.